So the first two speeches were conveniently just chapter 1 and chapter 2. But for speech 3, he has it as chapter 3, verse 1 to chapter 4, verse 7, which they're short chapters, so it's not like a big undertaking or anything like that. But I figured that we would try to follow his outline, especially because it's going to have very interesting implications for the how we understand the beginning of chapter 4. Just expanding. Okay. So we see here who is being addressed. Va'omar, Shim'u na Roshei Yaakov, uktinei be'Yisrael, halo lachem lada'at et hamishpat. So I said, listen, you rulers of Jacob, right? Roshei Yaakov, you chiefs of the house of Israel, for you ought to know what is right. Yeah, lada'at et hamishpat, what is right? Why? I don't know why that's the best translation here. I would think that to know like fairness or justice, what would be better. But anyway,
I have judgment.
oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
It's not incumbent upon you to know the judgment, or is it not incumbent
Is it
upon you
not?
to
Right,
know
right,
the
right.
judgment?
They're beautiful. Um, Son Etov ve'ohavera gozle oram alehem ushe'eram me'al atzmotam. Um, yeah, okay. But you hate good and evil. Wait, what? What happened with this? Okay. What do you have there for two?
Those who hate good and love evil,
Okay.
which is
Oh,
literal,
sin.
right?
Okay.
The haters of good and the lovers of evil is,
Okay.
it's
Great.
basically.
Okay. So right, blends with the next one. Asher achlu she'er ami ve'oram me'alehem hifshitu ve'et sorry hifshitu atzmotehem pitzechu uparsu ka'asher basir uchavasar betoch kalachat. So you've devoured my people's flesh, you have flayed the skin off them, and after tearing their skins off them, I know it's grotesque, and their flesh off their bones, and breaking their bones to bits, you have cut it up as into a pot like meat in a cauldron. Really, really gruesome imagery, right? For what these leaders, corrupt leaders, have done to the people, right? I mean, yeah. So it's clearly really trying to like catch attention. Excuse me. Az yizaku el Hashem velo ya'ane otam v'yaster panav mehem be'et hahi kasher hereu me'aleleihem. Interesting translation. Someday they shall cry out to God, but they will not be answered. At that time, the divine face will be hidden in accordance with the wrongs they have done. What do you have? Do you have someday also?
For the first part of 4,
Yeah.
then,
Then, yeah, okay.
then they
Right.
shall cry
Az.
out to the Lord.
Right. I guess they do someday because it seems like it's not immediate. Yeah. But as, sometimes like as Yashir, it implies,
Right.
yeah. Okay. So basically, right, you leaders have done the worst possible to the people, and therefore one day you're going to be in trouble. You'll call it to God, and God will not be there. Right. Yaster panav, hester panim. The idea that there are times when God hides God's face, essentially retracts from the world. Okay. So that's to the like political leaders. Then Micha turns to the prophets. Ko amar Hashem el haneviim sorry, I can't read today. Hamatim et ami hanoshchim b'shineihem v'kar'u shalom ve'asher lo yiten al pihem v'kitshu alav milchama. So thus said God to the prophets who lead my people astray, who cry peace when they have something to chew, but launch a war on those who fail to fill their mouths. Right? So basically appeal to the people who, I mean, this also hints towards corruption, right? That like you give a good answer to the people who supply you, but the people who lo yiten apihem that don't like bribe you essentially, those people you declare war on. Do you have a similar translation to that?
Whoever doesn't give into their mouth, they prepare war. So I guess
Okay,
that means
interesting. Okay.
more literal, I guess, like
Yeah,
eating them.
yeah.
But
Mm.
but it is actually what it is because litain alpihem, right?
Uh-huh. Right,
Yeah,
not be, it's al, on.
I'll pee him.
Yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
weird.
I know. Yeah,
On their mouth. It says into their mouth.
I know.
It doesn't, yeah. That's language is very not just explicit, but it's a little
Yeah,
unusual.
Micha tells it like it is. He does not
Yeah.
mince words. Yes. Yep. Okay, so he continues, Lachein laila lachem mechazon vechashcha lachem mikasom uva'ah hashemesh al hanevi'im v'kadar alehem hayom. Assuredly, therefore, it shall be night for you, so that you cannot prophesy, and it shall be dark for you, so that you cannot divine. The sun shall set on the prophets, and the day shall be darkened for them. Right? So this is connected to the idea that prophets, it's a chazon, it's a vision, right? They see what's going to happen. I mean, not prophetic in that sense, but and so here, like that's all going to be dark, right? It's going to be clouded. They're not going to be able to perform their basic functions.
But it's even worse than that philosophically, because they only see at night in a dream. So
Beautiful.
Micha is
Yeah.
saying, even in a dream, your eyes will be closed.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a great point. Um, right. Okay. Uvoshu achozim v'chafru hakosmim ve'atu al safam kulam ki ein ma'aneh Elohim. The seers shall be shamed and the diviners confounded. They shall cover their lips because no response comes from God. What do they say? Cover their lips is a sign of mourning. Do you also have cover their lips?
I have covered their upper lips. I don't know why they
Okay,
have
right.
upper
Yeah.
lips.
Okay. But in contrast, Ve'ulam anochi maleti.
Also,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
is that not what the Mitzorah has to do?
To cover their, oh gosh, I don't remember.
So
Probably.
I think I'll check and I'll raise my hand next time. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No one isn't. Yeah,
Okay,
let's
I'll
please,
check.
please jump in. Just to make sure I'm on this right place in my book so I can refer to the notes. Okay. Okay, so by contrast, V'ulam anochi maleti koach et ruach Hashem u'mishpat gvura lahagid leYaakov pish'u l'Yisrael chatato. Pish'u l'Yisrael chatato. But I am filled with strength by the Spirit of God and with judgment and courage, right? Mishpat again, to declare to God his transgressions and to Israel his sin. To Jacob, what is with me today? Did I say that? To Jacob his transgressions and to Israel his sin, right? So it's interesting, right? Because what Micha is saying here is like, if you have God on your side, you have the strength to tell people uncomfortable truths, right? Both to execute justice, but also to tell people things they don't want to hear. It's just think it's interesting to think that like what it really does is say there were a lot of false prophets back then. And what's the war between the false prophets and the real prophets? It's that the real prophets have things to say that no one wants to hear, and then the false prophets say what people want to hear, which just kind of like begs the question of like, what was it like? What kind of personality did these false prophets have? Like, what was in it for them? Why do that?
I can only think of one answer, and that's power.
Yeah,
To have and maintain power.
yeah. People listen to you.
Right.
Yeah, like an ego thing almost. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. It's very interesting. Okay, so those are the two attacks on the leaders, more political leaders, right? The Nevi'im, and then in contrast to Micha, God. Yes, Rav Yosef.
Yes, it is a Mitzorah, and there's different explanations. One is that it's actually taking the head covering and covering from the chin up. That way he doesn't cough on anybody, because it doesn't talk in the Torah about coughing, but it does talk about spitting. So the Safam Yateh is basically another way of you're not speaking clearly if you're wearing a mask, COVID.
I was about to say.
The other time that's mentioned is in Ezekiel. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Fascinating. Thank you for looking into that. Very interesting. All right, so now we begin the third section. Shim'u nazot Roshei Beit Yaakov uketzine Beit Yisrael hametavim mishpat ve'kol ha'ishara ya'azkeshu. Hear this, you rulers of the house of Jacob, you chiefs of the house of Israel, who detest justice and make crooked all that is straight. I love just like the directness of this language, right? It's not flowery. It's not like beating around the bush. It is so straightforward. Micah, I think I said last time, right? My assignment for my students was like, Micah as someone who tells it like it is, right? And says things directly. So you detest justice, right? You mita'avim, like a toiva. And you make crooked all that is straight. So this is the same people we're addressing at the beginning of the chapter. Boneh Tzion b'damim Yerushalayim be'avla, who build Zion with crime, Jerusalem with iniquity. Do you have crime, Thera, or whoever else in verse 10, or do you have blood?
Blood.
Blood, yeah.
Which one built Zion with blood and Jerusalem with injustice?
Yeah. I wonder why. I mean, fine, but I wonder why they went out of their way not to just say the word blood here.
Well, what's Dima?
It's like blood. I mean, blood, or it could be blood guilt is sometimes how the word is understood. Damim, blood or blood guilt. It's just like, why wouldn't you just leave it as blood? Let's see. Yeah. Hey, my guy doesn't really say anything. I think he assumes it's obvious it means blood. Well. All right. Rosheha bishochad yishpotu. V'kohanea b'mchir yoru u'nevi'eha b'kesef yiksomu. Ve'al Hashem isha'enu le'emor. Halo Hashem ekirbenu lo tavo aleinu ra'ah. Her rulers judge for gifts, right? Shochad, bribe, her priests give rulings for a fee, and her prophets divine for pay. Yet they rely upon God, saying, God is in our midst, no calamity shall overtake us. Just kind of wonder about the psychology of all this, right? First of all, the psychology of the people who are paying prophets to tell them what they want to hear. And then also the psychology of why did the leaders who are saying, Hello, Hashem b'kirbeinu, God's in our midst, so we'll be fine. Did they really believe what they were saying? Or were they just trying to like capitalize on vulnerability or, I guess this is kind of true of like any con people kind of think it'll work out, right? Until it all collapses. Okay. All right. Lachen biglalchem Tzion sadeh techaresh Yerushalayim in tiyev harabait lebamot ya'ar. So this is therefore assuredly because of you, Zion shall be plowed as a field. Jerusalem shall become heaps of ruins, and the Temple Mount a shrine in the woods. So also what makes Micah unique in terms of prophecy, but really also the timeline, is the willingness, whatever, to say that Jerusalem's going to be destroyed, right? Until now, there were like reassurances that, yeah, things are going to be bad. The Assyrians are going to come and destroy much, but like Jerusalem will be saved. And now it's worse. It's no, Jerusalem's going to be destroyed. So this is actually profound that he is saying this. It indicates a shift in prophecy on the timeline. So Rav Yosef, in the beginning, I was saying that the book I use divides the Micha into speeches, not chapters. And so he says the third speech encompasses the first 7 verses of chapter 4. So that's how we'll look at it.
Yeah.
So,
And I
yeah.
can actually just quickly check in the Christian Bible. All
Oh,
of Torah are messed up, and some of it is actually the Jewish fault, because even Parshat Shlach, Be'alotcha and Shlach are
yeah.
also divided differently.
By Prakim?
And the chapters are different. It's crazy.
But I thought the Christians made the chapters in the first place.
Right. So how is it that
How did that happen?
we have four chapters for Yoel and they only have 3?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I wonder what the history is there. I'd be very curious. So here's where we appreciate reading the first 7 verses of 4 with 3, because conclude, therefore, Jerusalem's going to be destroyed, right? And if you're the people listening to this, you're like, wait, what? Like Jerusalem's going to be destroyed? That's really bad. And connected to that same speech is, "V'haya b'acharit hayamim yiyeh har Beit Hashem nachon berosh ha'arim v'nisahu migvaot v'naharu alav amim." Then in the days to come, the mount of God's house shall stand firm above the mountains, and it shall tower above the hills. The people shall gaze on it with joy. By the way, I should also say this is a very strong, it's almost identical to the prophecy in Isaiah. So if it sounds familiar, that's why. Much less known in Micah. Sorry, go ahead, Rav Yosef, what?
The Christian Bible has it exactly like the division that we have.
Oh, interesting.
But I did check the previous verse about the damim.
Yeah.
So they translate as blood shed, and that way it's
Great.
both blood and crime combined.
Yeah, smart. That's kind of what the Mikra says too. Okay, perfect. Thank you for looking into that. Okay. Ve'alchu goyim rabim ve'amru lechu v'na'aleh al har Hashem ve'al beit Elokei Yaakov ve'yorenu midrachav v'nacha b'achorotav ki mitzion teitzei Torah u'dvar Hashem miYerushalayim. So we recognize that one. And the many nations shall go and shall say, come, let us go up to the mount of God, to the house of the God of Jacob, that we may be instructed in God's ways, that we may walk in godly paths. For instruction shall come forth from Zion, the word of God from Jerusalem. Right, so we're in our very messianic vision, of what's going to happen in the future. V'shafat ben amim rabim v'ochiach legoyim atzumim ad rachok. Do you need to get in? Here, sorry. Pause 1 second. No.
And you know
For class or before the, for what club?
I'm not gonna go.
Oh, shoot.
Okay,
Okay.
but wait, no, I'm not sure if that happened today.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Totally kick me out if it does. Okay? Thank you. Okay, I might be displaced in a moment, but let's just do this. Okay, so ושפט בין עמים רבים והוכיח לגויים עצומים עד רחוק וכיתתו חרבותיהם לעתים וחניתותיהם למזמרות לא יישאו גוי אל גוי חרב ולא ימדו על מלחמה. Right, our very famous pasuk. God will judge among the peoples and arbitrate for the multitude of nations, however distant, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not take up sword against nation, they shall never again know war. Right, so this really is basically identical to Isaiah. V'yashvu ish tachat gafno v'tachat te'inato v'ein macharid ki pi Hashem tzvakot diber. Every family shall sit under its own vine and fig tree with no one to disturb them, for what is God of hosts who spoke. Right, so it'll be beautiful. By the way, it's worth noting that in terms of messianic visions, this one explicitly includes all the nations of the world, right? One of the things we discuss in messianic studies, I guess, in Judaism is it a vision for global the global upending of order and global peace, or is it just about more like the Rambam says, no, it's just like Jews will be able to live in peace and like we can kind of just do our own thing. So this is definitely obviously completely global and universal, I guess I should say. Um, so it continues, Ki kol ha'amim yalchu ish b'shem Elokav, ve'anachnu nelech b'shem Hashem Elokeinu le'olam va'ed. Oof. All the peoples walk in each in the name of its gods. We will walk in the name of the eternal our God forever and ever. Let's okay, so let's just pause there for a second. So one of the questions that what I found very interesting about what he points out about the significance of lumping this in with this previous speech is that in Isaiah it opens a new speech. So Isaiah begins with this like beautiful universal vision of the swords and plowshares and nation will not take up sword against nation, right? Here, that is a vision, but it's a vision that's only a comfort reaction to the complete destruction of Jerusalem, right? That it's connected to like things are going to get really, really bad first. To the point where like everything the country, the kingdom as you now know it will be totally destroyed. And that there's like, it adds a big dose of realism, I guess, to the prophecy, but also I think he was arguing it makes it like inseparable from the idea of justice will be delivered, right? And Jerusalem will be destroyed because of sin. That's the only circumstances under which will lead to this what's utopian vision of the world. Whereas in Isaiah, you can kind of just accept it on its own without any of those conditions first. Any reactions or okay, so we'll look at the last two psukim now. Bayom hahu neum Hashem osfa hatzole'a ve'haniracha akabetza ve'asher hareoti v'samti, I'll just do them together, et hatzole'a l'she'irit ve'hanahala'a l'goy atzum v'malach Hashem aleihem behar Tzion me'ata ve'ad olam. In that day, it declares God, I will assemble the lame or the sheep and will gather the outcast and those I have treated harshly. I will turn the lame into a remnant and the expelled into a populous nation, and God will reign over them on Mount Zion for now and forevermore. So what does this like? I'm curious what you see this meaning, or like what it does for you.
On the one hand, it's very depressing. He informs them before anybody else that Mount Moriah will be plowed. But on the other hand, he also tells them about the happy ending. So,
well, yeah,
and it's the word Solea is actually mentioned in this parsha for the first time, where Yaakov is limping.
Good. Oh, yeah, that's the word. Okay. So that's an interesting connection then about like the limping and
It's interesting with Yaakov because of Yaakov's injury when he was struggling with the angel.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I'm just trying to find where he oh yeah, that's right here. And it's also right with Yaakov, and it's once in Sephania in a similar vision of redemption. So it might reflect that Jacob was exiled, made lame by God's angel, and then brought safely back to Israel, right? Which is a ready model for the people facing dispersion from their land. And it may also return to the sheep metaphor that Micah often uses to describe the relationship between God and Israel. Or is it Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom? It's an interesting continuation also of the theme of justice from the beginning, right? That like we know that when you abuse justice, the people who bear the brunt of that abuse are the the disadvantaged, right? The lame, the outcast, etc., the most vulnerable. And so here it's interesting that the message that God is saying on that day of redemption, like who are going to be the people who can get this message? Dafka, those people. So to me, it kind of brings it back to that theme of justice that chapter 3 opened with. Although some of the Mefarshim see it as being like the Tzolea will come first, but not be the only ones. So there, I see you're still looking, but I would say that I guess to me the takeaway with this is, let me say one more thing. There's scholarly debate over who came first, Micha or Isaiah, although most people agree that this is built off Isaiah, right? And not vice versa. It's not that Isaiah built off Micha. So that also really emphasizes that Micha's novelty, what makes him unique, or at least new, is taking, the more flowery parts of Isaiah and couching them in this very stark, harsh realism, and not letting anyone think, kind of like, the people are saying, oh, Hashem b'kirbeinu, right? Hashem's in our midst, so we're fine. And saying like, no, you don't get to look at those prophecies from Isaiah or elsewhere and say, oh, great, things are going well. I'm going to make sure you understand what context they're coming in, and I'm not going to beat around the bush at all. And I think there's something special about a book that is so direct in that sense. I really appreciate that. Mm. Anything else anyone wants to comment?
I'm just trying.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out the translation that I have with Hebrew.
Okay.
6, it says, God says, I will heal the limping one, and the lost one I will gather, and those that I harmed. And I will make and then 7, I will make the limping one into a remnant, and the scattered into one mighty nation, etc. So it sounds as if the people that were disadvantaged or damaged or had hardship are
Mhm.
going to be redeemed. If not first, then certainly they're going to be made whole. And they themselves will be the remnant.
Mhm. Right, exactly. Right. It's very interesting. Yeah. It's pretty bleak, I think. Even if it ends with some level of hope. Hey, I still think it's kind of bleak.
Yeah, I have a comment, but I'd rather say it off camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, of course. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so you know what? Let me stop. Stop.